Valeri come from swimming, and and I started because at my father's firm, he worked in the print industry, and they had a rowing section, and in those days there were two. Okay, so the four of us are here at the World Championships in Amsterdam. We've got Valeri Kleshnev, Tor Nielsen, Klaus Filter and me, Terry O'Neill, and today we've seen an absolutely outstanding performance from Murray and Bond again, who really seem to be a bit of a phenomenon in both pairs. They've won 2 gold medals in the Cox and Cox's pair, and they've been unbeaten now since 2009. No one seems to be able to get used to them. So what do you reckon, Valeri, what do you think their secret is then? If it is a secret?
I think there's no secret at all. From what we can see outside, the rowing technique is perfectly okay. They have long stroke, good sequence of the body segments, legs first, then trunk starts at the right time, good stretching of the shoulders, long stroke, as I said, and good blade work, good using of the body weight in the second half. And of course, allegedly, nobody knows exactly, but allegedly they have very good power on the erg, and ratio power to body weight I think is also outstanding. So yeah. That combination of these two factors give us really high speed.
So Tor, you've been involved with some of the greatest rowers over your career. Where would you place these two?
Yeah, you know, it's quite difficult to put them on the ranking list, but you can just say that they're outstanding, and so they say here they do everything correct in the technique, but of course that is also the question about physiological parameters, and they have a high oxygen uptake, they are strong, they have a good size and talent for a movement, and probably very well motivated and well trained with a good professional system behind them. And if you compare them with the other girls, you can also see that the machine is a little bit bigger than most of the opponents, so that gives them this outstanding performance. So because it's nothing, how do you call it, it's no secrets in what they are doing. It's well trained people, talented people, a good technique, high motivation, and not afraid to take a match on the water. So that gives them this advantage. We have also other people here in the same situation, but if you ask for these two girls, they are outstanding in their own way, but physiologically, technically, there's not much they can improve.
Yeah. So what's your view? I mean, you've seen some of the greatest athletes from the old DDR. And
I can compare it with former times. Mm-hmm. And I am watching, of course, I'm interested in the boats first, of course. Mm-hmm. Of course not both athletes and boat. I see it as a system.
Right.
It has to work together. And when I watch the boat, I can see if the rowing technique is good or not so good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if I go into the past, we have had some outstanding athletes. The most outstanding I have ever seen in my life was Christine Scheiblich. She was a scholar, East Germany. Yeah. She was in all tests the weakest in the women's sculling quad, but in the single, she won 2 Olympics. In between all the world championships, she was never beaten, and she won her races with at least 10 seconds in front of the field. Yeah. And when you watched her boat, it went like a sliding rigger boat. There was no dip of the stern, no purposing. The speed curve was really low, yeah, with very, without any peaks, and that's okay. It was a secret for many people, yeah? But last not least, I had a measuring system where I could measure the boat, the so-named boat force. That means the difference force between stretcher and gate. Yeah, that's the only force which is the propulsion of the boat. Mm-hmm. And all athletes, they had just at the catch they had a negative peak in this force. Yeah, and that means the bow. And she didn't have it. Yeah, it was a zero line at the recovery, and then she went into positive drive. Yeah? She has only positive forces, and that was her secret. Yeah? And maybe comparable was Thomas Lange, and when I saw his curves, he has only half of the negative force. Yeah,
yeah, sure.
Negative. So that means that is, in my point of view, the most crucial point in rowing technique at all. Yeah, and one negative aspect is the long-term training on the traditional concept work, yeah, where you just measure what you pull and everything, and athletes can go into the stretcher as much as they want. Yeah, of course they have to carry their body mass and so, and that means that when they transfer this habit, and of course if you make long time training on that, you adapt to that.
You are mentioning something now, and we have on this side here, and he is an expert in biomechanic. And of course, I'm not an expert in biomechanic, but I mean, you a long time in the sport are looking for the flow.
Yeah.
What people are doing, how they work in harmony with the boat, with the material, everything is floating. And I mean, you see that in other sports as well. You can look at some sports and you say this is good and this is bad. And it's the same thing in rowing. When you see everything is floating, the movement is there, etc. We have in this championship here, they lost the gold medal today due to the Fairness Commission and bad weather conditions. But the French double, they have this movement. Both is not stopping.
The lightweight double.
Lightweight double.
Yeah.
They are flowing. They have a flow. They do everything right. Don't harm the boat. So, and that was you described. But of course, Valeri, he can then go in and he can do his biomechanical measurements, and then of course he can explain what we need to change, why they're not getting this flow. But I use my eyes and look for the flow, and then we can get information from Valeri to try to get this flow to occur. But if you don't know what they're doing wrong, it's very difficult to correct it.
It's interesting that here you're talking about the negative impulse as you change direction, and of course here we've seen the Polish A that are using the Shimano system on their stretchers, and the Shimano system is claims that it reduces the negative impulse on the front end, and the Polish A did really well in their heat. They won and won comfortably. How much do you think that that Shimano system has added to the Polish A, if anything?
Well, can I answer?
Of course you can.
Question. Shimano system is, I don't think it create much more power. It can fit to some rowers, but it may not fit to other rowers. It just changed geometry of the legs movement slightly. And but coming back to Klaus' ideas, I think I'm very familiar with this theory. The boat must move very, steady without variation of the boat speed. It's pretty old, I would say, old-fashioned theory. I think these days the emphasis moving, shifting a little bit more from board to the rowers, because in fact board is light. The rowers is the heaviest part of the system. So now we are looking more at the continuous, exactly what Thor said, flow of the movement of the rowers, most steady speed of the movement of the center of mass of the rower. And it's opposite to the board, because at catch, when you kick the stretcher, board goes backward, but athlete accelerates forward. And I think that we can see now a number of developments in terms of foot stretches. This is Shimano stretcher, then BetLogic, then we have that Australian thing, blue stuff, how it called, the quick something.
Yeah.
It's another version. Now we have our kinetic energy savings recovery system or rocker foot stretch. And it's good to have the choice for coaches and rowers, and I think in near future we will see who is the winner in this competition, and I think it's very healthy for.
Tomorrow we will see this Polish 8 against Germany and the others, and of course in the first heat here, Germany was winning in line 6 and then the Polish was winning in line 6. The opinion of many coaches was that the course was unfair, and we will see tomorrow when we have the finals how unfair it was. But I must say that when you looked at the Polish 8, they took one leg on the first 500 meter, and I don't think the first 500 meter was unfair. So they was rowing well, but we will see tomorrow. And if they get a medal, I don't think it has to do with the foot stretchers. I think it has to do with the performance. I think 2000 meters.
Right. Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
And Valerie, just to answer you, you said, okay, not concentrating on the boat. Never concentrate. The boat is what you like. It's 10% of the total mass which is moving there. Yeah, and the boat shows only mistakes made by the team.
Of course.
That is it. Because it's very light and therefore it is influenced by all mistakes. Yeah? The smoother the movement is, without peaks in acceleration, the better the boat reacts and the better the boat runs, of course. Yeah? Yeah? If you porpoise, yeah? There is one example, yeah? Like it is dramatically. We had first time in 96. We had the lightweight women in the Olympics. Yeah, we had the Romanian
76.
96.
96.
Oh, no,
And the Olympics.
96.
And the Olympics, yeah.
96 in the Olympics.
That's
yeah?
right.
In
I was
the
there.
Olympics.
I was there.
Yeah, they've been there.
I was actually coaching the lightweight double. I just remember that.
And this Romanian team was rowing very powerful, yeah, and they won the Olympics, yeah. And we had the next World Championships in Egbelet.
Yeah.
97.
Yeah.
97, yeah. And we were a big crowd, a big screen at the boat place, yeah. Big screen around, and they are powering off from the start, 2 lengths in front. And I said, sorry, I think these girls will never win the race. And everybody was shouting on me, oh, crazy, Olympic champions, 2 lengths in front after 500 meter, what do you think? I think they will not.
They will die.
They will die.
Die.
And there was and you the girls from Dresden, yeah, and they worked very smoothly, yeah, and lower stroke rate, but with each stroke they kept up half a meter, yeah, and they let their boat run.
Yeah.
And what was the result in the end? The Romanians did not win there, but fourth, no medal. And they died. They couldn't keep that boat. The boat jumped. Yeah.
Yeah.
I found when I was coaching, the most difficult thing I found to really get over to the athletes was that they had to work in sympathy with the boat, and this is a feeling. And how do you explain? How do you explain to someone a feeling in a boat? And you would get some really powerful guys that are doing fantastic scores on the ergometer. You put them in a boat and they couldn't move it at all.
Of course.
And other people did. They would. It's almost like, you know, you see a golfer, and you'll see one golfer, big strong guy, he hits the ball maybe 200 yards, and another smaller guy, Ian Woosnam, for example, was about 5'4", Welsh golfer. And he would hit the ball further than anyone. And it was just that his body timing, he got that ball absolutely at the right time. And I think that what you see with these outstanding crews, like the French lightweight double, who are a beautiful looking crew, they just move perfectly with the boat. And some of the others are
Struggling and fighting.
struggling and fighting with the boat. But as a coach, how do you explain that feeling, you know, that? And I remember Sean Bowden, who I worked with once, would have an expression: is all action and no reaction. And it would be someone doing all sorts of crazy things inside the boat, looking like they're working their socks off, but the boat's just not moving. Whereas you get someone else, smaller, lighter people, coming in and really moving it so well. So when I realised I couldn't explain that, I gave up.
You can difficult to explain the feeling, but I mean, flow. You can teach certain things, but there's also the fact that some people have a bad coordination, and whatever you do, they will never make it. And although they have a talent for them, and try to make it correct. You can always put powerful people, perhaps also a little bit primitive technique, in the middle of an 8 and sitting in the machine room, and they pull. But the smaller the boat is, you more in need is sensitivity and the flow for working with the material and not against it.
Yeah.
Another important factor which I forgotten to mention is synchronization in the crew, because rowing is a team sport, and going back to Rory Bond pair, they must have very good synchronization. In pair, it's really important to keep the boat straight. And also, boat movement depend on synchronization of the how the rowers work together through the stretch. So it's like in the crew boats, good reflection of synchronization of the rowers, because we are team sport and we need to move together synchronously.
Yeah, it's really for me the best indication of the efficiency is really the propulsion each rower provides to the boat. Yeah, when we had my measuring system in the 8, you could easily see who is not able to row an 8. Yeah, they were rowed against the stretcher by the others. Yeah, and we had to take them out because they looked from outside. Oh, they had the same stroke rate, but they came maybe a tenth of a second too late, and then they produced a huge negative impact on the boat. Yeah, because they were too late.
But when you talk about this championship here, the most outstanding crew here is of course the New Zealand straight pair, who was winning now 2 gold medals this weekend, the straight pair and the Cox pair. And if you look at them, it's quite difficult to explain why are they so outstanding.
Yeah.
Because they're not doing anything exceptional. They are moving after the book. They are picking up. They use the leg drive effectively. They really get the maximum effort. They are strong, healthy New Zealanders. Probably genetic, very strong as well, with a good oxygen uptake and all these things. But many other crews has the same. But they are outstanding and winning everything in the last years. And I studied them to try to find an explanation. And I mean, they do everything correct out of the book. When we talk about that, they utilize it. And of course, it's the genetic factor, but that the two things together shouldn't give them so much speed compared with the others. But I try to see then that they're entering up, they're good length on the strokes, but when I control it a little bit, they pull through the water faster than anybody else without. I mean, and you can also say we have seen strong people, they are so quick and fast, so they move the water and not the boat. But these two, they are so coordinated, so every energy they put in there, and a good stroke, good acceleration, they get it over in boat speed. And that is outstanding compared to the others. I don't know what you think about it, but that's at least my view of it.
Yeah, I think one thing we ought to, while we're talking about outstanding crews, is that you've also got Glover and Stanning in the women's pair, who as a margin are sort of in the same field in terms of the margin of their victories is similar to Murray and Bond, and it's quite incredible that I mean, looking at the two, Glover in the Bowsy, who won last year with another athlete, so it's quite incredible, and she's the much smaller one of the two, and you know they're why are they so good? What's going on there? You know,
maybe
there seems to be a mismatch between the two physically. You know, one a lot bigger than the other, but nevertheless they made that boat
You remember, Valeri, you made a testing of this pair from Australia,
Yes.
and we had a force curve, and you could see that the force curve is not identical for this pair. There was, I mean that when in the catch, the bowman was using a little bit less energy than the strokeman. In the finish, it was opposite. And
That's
the
makes
boat
it
went straight.
straight, of
And
course.
I mean,
yeah.
here this is, you cannot see that when you just look at them, but when
You
you
can't
get
coach
this
it either,
force
Tor. The athletes must feel that because, you know, in a pair it's an asymmetric boat and the person about has a mechanical advantage. But if they use that mechanical advantage, the boat could never go in a straight line. So somehow or other, they're tuning in to the power output of the stroke, right? And rowing in a way slightly different.
yeah, to keep the boat straight.
straight. But who
But
coaches
very
that?
apparent that's not a new. We have used that experience with our straight pairs, Landvogt and Britzke-Mager. They were coached this way to have their first curve different.
Really?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you say of course. I've been rowing quite a lot of straight pair, and I always stroking. I pull like a devil all the time. and the bowman has always pulled me over into catch. But we were not smart enough to recognize that. Yeah.
And the part of the training was let them row without rudder.
Yeah.
Yeah, to go straight. And they by their own intentions, they adapted to the right stroke.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. But there was a Canadian pair some years ago that rowed Attleborough. Johnson brothers, weren't they? They were brothers from Canada. They never used the rudder when they rowed the pair.
We had some crews who dropped that, but it's I prefer to have a roller because it can be some side wind and other things, and then you need to steer a little bit. You cannot only adjust it with rowing. Okay, you can, but that's then you need a lot of training to do that.
I didn't mind the rudder as long as I had my foot in it.
Maybe one factor we have not put into the discussion, but I want to mention it. That's the displacement of the boat. Yeah, you know, coaches are discussing over grams adding to the boat or reducing 1 kg on the boat, and so if you put it in relation to the old displacement, it's nothing. Yeah, yes, but if they look at the athletes, they take them from the rowing machine score, highest score. No way if they are 90 kg or 100 or 110, yeah, they put them into the boat, yeah. But I don't know if all coaches look at the relation of body mass and output in watts.
Well, it should do.
Yeah, they should do it, but sometimes I have the impression that they don't do it. Yeah, and these New Zealand guys, they are not the heaviest. Yeah, yeah, but I think their relation, what output and body mass will have, is the best of all.
So we know that.
It's one factor.
I mean, the classical thing is that everybody cries to get a light boat. Oh, if the boat is a couple of kilo too heavy, that's a catastrophe. But if you look into some of the rowers, they are the catastrophe because they have 5, 6, 7 kilo extra they shouldn't have. And
Yeah, that's
makes
what
it
I mean.
Yeah, no, I remember I made a friend for life because there's one quite good single-sculler female, and I complimented her to row so fast with the boat. She was 19 kilo. And she said, no, my boat is 14 kilo. I said, but you have at least 5 kilo fat you shouldn't have. That was the last time she said hello to me. But I mean, it's the same thing with many rowers here. They complain about the boat is too heavy, and if you look at the crew, look along, they are too heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And that stops the boat. I can give any coach a calculation how slow the boat is.
Yeah.
And they have so much overweight in the boat.
Well, look, I mean, there's no excuse for that really, because most of these teams are very, very well supported with medical, nutritionists,
Today, yes.
physiotherapists,
The whole
masseurs. It's a really professional setup for certainly most of the bigger teams. So, you know, obviously, when I started off coaching lightweights, and of course we were very, very conscious about that the body weight, percentage of body weight, and we were measured on a regular basis to make sure that they wouldn't. But fat's no advantage to a heavyweight, in the same way that it's not an advantage to a lightweight. But a lightweight, if it's got too much fat, we won't get through the weigh-in and won't get into the competition. If a heavyweight's carrying too much fat, no one seems to worry too much. But as we're getting into, as the sport becomes more professional and teams' finances are based on performance, you know, you can see this coming off, and that the heavyweights are going to be just as conscious about their weight and their percentage body fats as the lightweights.
What we are doing those days, we take, I mean, in some countries it's not allowed to take body fat on women due to the fact that we have some disturbance in eating processes, etc., anaerobic, and then of course it's a problematic thing. But normally we will take body fat, not only a lightweight, it's also heavyweight rowers. And nothing we can do about it. When we have our camps, then we at least do it on everybody, and we advise them and tell them that this is, you are too much, you should do something about it, change your eating habit, etc. And also give them some instruction about nutrition and what they should eat. So because it's, I mean, okay, the professional ones, the big nations, they know all these things, but for us then, who are dealing with developing nations, etc., of course the knowledge there is quite limited. So, but we focus on that, body weight and nutrition, etc., to understand that there's no reason to ask for a single sculler who are 14 kilo if you are 5-6 kilo overweight. So,
on that question of lightweights, initially the thought was, as I understand it, that by bringing the lightweight category into rowing, it would open the sports up to some of the developing nations that the general population isn't as big as, say, Western Europe, America, and the dominant countries in the sport. But it hasn't. Do you think it's worked?
Listen here now, we have lightweight rowing already in the 1930s, 35, 36 in Scandinavia. So lightweight rowing is nothing new for up there. We know that people was different, and lightweight was part of the whole game. We didn't have many boat types, we had a 4, and but that was a tradition. So and of course then today, I mean, if you go out there in the world now and see with some populations, they have big, I mean, you can only go to some of your neighbor countries like Ireland. They have made a really success in lightweight.
Yeah.
And of course they have had some good people also in heavyweight, but they are in one way a lightweight nation.
Yeah.
Coming now some female up, but they have the gold medals they have been winning in the last years has been in lightweight.
Yeah. I mean, but what I'm saying is that you're right, but it still seems to be dominated by Europe, Australia, and America. It's not really let in the Asian countries.
No, not yet. But you know, here I mean, I'm working with development, and we have still a long way to go. But if you are in Korea, for instance, and the majority is light people, and in many Asian countries they are light. And but if you look into China with 1.3 million people, then there are plenty to take from. And there, of course, you see that the Chinese women in the women's category, they are big and strong, but still they have also the lightweight who are really fast. But that's again, it's a selection. Plenty of people to choose from, etc. But if you look into the times these lightweight are doing, you will see that they are really top athletes. I want to, just because you're British, the Danish 4 was racing in Henley for some years ago against the superstars from Great Britain, and over the 2,000 meter uphill in Henley, that was 1.6 seconds behind the British. And that shouldn't be possible because I think the British crew was around 95 kilos or something, and about 6.5-7 liter of oxygen uptake. And these mosquitoes from Denmark, there was approximately 5.5, 5.6, and little bit heavier than normal, but not more than 73, 74 kilo. And if you say this uphill course in Henley, 1.6 seconds, it shows that technically these boys are much better than the British.
Yeah, I think actually that you've actually touched on another point there, Tor, and that is that the improvement in lightweight performance in the Olympic events has been absolutely meteoric, and it actually poses a risk to them in a way that if you looked at it statistically, you now can't separate lightweight and heavyweight performances in the lightweight double sculls and the heavyweight double scull and the lightweight Cox's 4 and the heavyweight Cox's 4. What I'm saying is, by statistically, there is no separation from that group, so there's an overlap. So the best lightweights could get to the final. They might not win the event, but that means that these two events are overlapping and not statistically proven to be different. And there's a risk there.
They're even faster at longer distances. It's a well-known fact that heavyweight have advantage shorter distance.
But the risk that I'm alluding to here is that if we're constantly trying to maintain our presence and numbers in the Olympics, right? But if we've got two events that are so close that someone from outside can look and say, look, statistically, there's no difference here. There's no difference in the performance of the lightweights and heavyweights, so one of them's got to go. And obviously, we don't want that to happen. We want to maintain. And the success of the lightweights actually puts their position at risk if there is another investigation and another cull where they try to reduce their own events.
Well, Terry, one note to that. Okay, if we maybe go into the results here, what we have here, they were very near together. If the wind was opposite direction, the distance will double up. That means that is quite clear. I was all my life lightweight rower. By open races, I won always in tailwind against the heavyweights. The higher the waves were, the better I was against them. I could beat them easily. And other direction, I would have no chance at all. No chance at all. That means statistics, you have always to look carefully under what conditions.
You're right. But we had this discussion before, and it is clear here what Klaus is saying. That is also the arguments we have used when we discuss it with IOC then. And but of course also when we see in '92 Olympics with Australian winning the men's double, and was more or less lightweight, both of them, Peter Anthony and his partner. So and of course that shows that it is very close together in certain conditions.
Yes,
but I think that FISA, we are able to, we are all the time under attack from other Olympic nations that we have too many rowers in the Olympics because we are the third biggest sport with 550 participants, and it's only track and field and swimming is bigger than us. And I think we are too small internationally, and we have too many people and too many gold medals in the sport, so we should reduce it. But up to now we have had very good people in IOC who has been able to keep the position, but what will happen in the future I don't know. But it's clear that in a certain way we are overrepresented in number of athletes. But if we don't get these athletes, we cannot really make a good regatta. So the point is then, do we need to cut down the boat types? What are we cutting out? And if we cut out the boat types, we will lose quite a lot of these smaller nations from Latin America and Asia, etc. Who are, the population is smaller than the big nations. So this is a technical question, and I mean here this is a political question on a higher level. I don't think we can do anything about it. Just hope that it works out good for rowing.
I think a lot of the problems is funding. It's quite expensive for. But if you looked at the structure and you took your Olympic events, as the countries are getting more and more professional in their approach with their national teams, the gap between the international rowing and the basic club rowing gets wider and wider and wider. And what possibly FISA need to look at is placing something to fill that gap, a midpoint. Now you could do this in a couple of ways. A simple way is to copy what the veterans have done, which is effectively a club world championships. All the veterans all turn up and they race one another. They call themselves the world champions.
He's doing six times in the same category.
Yeah, all right. I'm not saying we replicate it entirely, but it's a very, very successful regatta. It attracts something like 5,000 competitors. It's good for the sport. It keeps people in the sport. It's something like a club regatta, which would be FISA World Club Regatta, would raise the standard of club rowing and give something for people to aspire to, because unless at the moment, certainly in my country, unless you're prepared to go full time, there's no chance that you could get at an international level. Another easy way is the non-Olympic events. You just open them up to the best club at your own national championships. They have to fund themselves to come, and so they could prepare and say, look, we've got the Cox 4, the Cox Pair that we can go for, and some of the non-Olympic lightweight events, and look for sponsorship in your own country, and so, because if everyone that wins here is a world champion, regardless of whether it's an Olympic event or a non-Olympic event, they're still
World champion.
They're still a world champion, and you could open those events up, and possibly this would help to fill that gap. Because what worries me is if for any reason the funding is withdrawn for some of these strong countries, the gap that they've created, it could really be put you back.
It will take time to change these things here, because when I started rowing in 1945, FISA had 20 members.
Mm.
When we started the development program in 1985, we was 50 members. Today we are 144. And I mean, the whole sport has changed character. We are more professional, people are training differently. So we are, in the beginning, rowing was a sport for a few, mainly academic people. And you know yourself, in Great Britain, you had also a certain kind of labor organization who was making rowing.
Yeah.
And that happened in other countries as well. But the whole thing has completely, we are now an international sport based in all over the world. And it's coming morning in, the big nation invest, it's the Olympics, it's glory, and we are talent development, etc., etc. And the new nations coming in, they have a long way to go to process the certain level. Of course, when we go into a country in Africa, the first thing the National Olympic Committee asks us is that when can we fight for an Olympic gold medal? And then we must be very careful not tell them the truth. Because it can take one generation.
Yeah.
But anyhow, the point is that we need them with us. You are mentioning here, we are now talking about to make some continental regattas more attractive and get these different people in so they can compete on the continent in the area they are. And but of course we need boats, and we are working with all these things there. But your point is correct, Terry. We need to do something to get these people, how do you call it, to learn to compete, to learn to train and all these things. But everybody has been working with the development, and now you take 2 steps up and then you got 1, perhaps 2 steps back in the next period of time. So it's not easy, we cannot turn it over. But we have to look at this, look at the big nations and how do you call it, the active nations coming on the top of it, and then try to bring this over to these new nations. But it will take time. No discussion.
Yeah.
You see here also, we have people coming in here, and when the winning time in the heat is 7:30, they use 9:05. It means, and when you ask them, they say we are here to learn. But you know, a World Championship is not a place to learn. So we need to have then more attractive things going on the different continents. People can participate there, and when they are good enough, they can come to the World Championship. But not before.
That's right. And Thor, I remember when we started the development program, we had also developments in the technical Entwicklung, material Entwicklung, yeah. And you know, that was, in my point of view, it's one of the wisest decisions the council ever take, that we, when for example, the sliding ringer came up, yeah, and it was promoted by many people. They said, oh, cool, technical development makes rowing more exciting, faster and everything, yeah. So we could approve that would have been very counterproductive for our sport. First for the development program, yeah. Some people said, okay, we can put this system in all boats. I proved with one example, boat, what I made a meter shorter, yeah, that was in front of the champions. Yeah? So that means we had to throw away all material. Yeah? And even the second step was, for developing country we wanted to get in, was this system too expensive? Boats, when normal boats were already too expensive, and this has complicated it. It's a mechanically, it need maintenance, mechanically knowledge. It was absolutely useless. And another argument, this system was made for special athletes. Yeah? Special athlete, short trunk, long arms, long legs, like for example Kolbe was. Yeah? These athletes could perform. Other people, we had a good scholar, short arm, short leg, but strong. He couldn't perform in this system at all. Yeah? His stroke was too short. That means even the range of people going to our sport would have been reduced.
Also, the point is that we didn't stop it due to, how do you call it, biomechanical aspect. We closed it because people started to use titanium, etc., to build these things inside the boat, and the production price was just dropping up there. So we then decided that this is the way a boat should work, and we made these things so it's more or less impossible to change anything in the moment. So, but of course, then we tried to keep it. But Klaus, you went down to several countries and was giving boat building courses, so people could produce their own boats. In Africa,
of course.
And so we try, but you know, I think we must be realistic about it and continue to work as we are doing and help people to out in the new countries and also developing countries do as good as we can. But we cannot expect any big input. Latin America could do something in a relatively short time because they have a long culture of rowing. They have excellent clubs in there, 100 years old, etc. So they have a culture of rowing behind them, but the economy has made them, how do you call it, more or less impossible to follow up the tendency we have in rowing. So that's a money question, but I mean here now, Valerie is always assisting us. We have every year a development camp in Seville, and Valerie is there, and we test these people and we explain for them what to do. So we try to give them knowledge, what they are supposed to do, and we are teaching them exercise physiology, we tell them the training system, etc. So we give them. But again, you know, when they are there, they are happy, go home again, and nothing happens. It's the same old saying, you can show the horse the water, but you cannot force it to drink. Yeah. So we do what we can, and some places they are really developing nicely, and other places we take 2 steps up there and 2 steps back.
Right. Well, I think just to wrap this up and bring it back to the regatta that we're going through here in Amsterdam, and Valerie. You know, conditions have been all over the place this week. It's been very, very difficult for the athletes. Do you think that, from what you've seen, that conditions have maybe changed results significantly?
Yeah, I think it was quite obvious because some obviously very strong crews just missed the finals and things like this. And I think we have to do something with it because it's big money now, and
perhaps you don't know it, Terry, but I have been in the Fairness Commission here in this year.
Really?
And, and I'm happy if I survive this weekend. But it is very clear that the condition has been unfair. And the point is again here, what are you doing? Because the wind is changing all the time.
Yeah.
And in one moment that line is good, next moment is the other side. But when it starts to be stable, then we have stopped it, but sometimes we stop it too late. So some people suffer really, but as you have seen today and also yesterday, if you have been over in line 6, forget it, there are no chance. The line 6 is last in every bloody race we have. And what are we doing then? I mean, we have to accept one thing, that if you don't perform in the heats when you start the regatta, if you have a bad performance or the bad line at that time, that follow you through the whole process.
Right, yeah.
So you will get in the bad line all the way up. So the first heat is very important to get the position, the reach level where you are. Because if you, we had some fellow here was unlucky, come in the wrong line in the first day. That was line 0. It was terrible. Everybody lost in line 0, and that was a silver medal winner from last year's World Championship. And he has been suffering from that since the first day. And it was his mistake. It was us who didn't stop it in time. So it's fairness, and this course here, I will not talk about it because we have so many problems, but we can change the topic and say, what are we doing in the future?
Yeah.
Do we find some courses where they are, they have a classification, this is a World Championship course, we can accept it, this is not good enough, this can be a World Cup, etc. And quite a lot of regatta courses will be squeezed out because there's too many problems for them.
If we start, we can count so many examples from the past, yeah. Because I have, since 1960, I am on international regattas, yeah. And I can tell you one outstanding example was European Championship '79 in Moscow, yeah. That was absolutely unfair. We had gold medal winners, say, in the last 500 meters, they couldn't move even, yeah. So, and we had a team we wouldn't like to take. It was a straight 4, very weak, but we let them take. They would go there under the coverage of the grandstands. They never had won a race before and never after that. So we can have so many examples for
I'm just curious, just a few years ago on a coaches conference I've seen a presentation exactly on this course, the weather monitoring system that was done in Bosbaan by some Dutch university, and I'm just curious where it is. Why, if we would have that system in real time, we can Fairness Commission can see it, it can react quicker. But
Valerie, they have shown me the figures, yeah, and the result was that is from race to race, it changed. The wind changed and the current changed, yeah. You cannot predict that.
May I say, the Dutch has made a great job in the 2 last years. They have had people in action here, they have measured all over different weather conditions, and they have made models to measure, they have the instruments, and during the days now, we have been the fairness, we have been out there, we have measured that side, in the middle, on the other side, at the same time to see, and we had then seen that in 1 hour it changed.
Yeah.
When the wind changed, the here and there, the pattern changed on the water, and that we have been kids that why haven't we reacted earlier? But we control it, and then suddenly that is that where we should move, and then 5 minutes later, it's back to what it was, and then it changed again. So we must have stable conditions before we can take a decision. That's the reason why we had taken the decision too late here several times. We should 3 races before we stopped it today. We should have taken that decision, but the indication we got was not strong enough to change. But then we forget about all the science, but we see the result.
Yeah.
And when we see that line 1 is who shouldn't take a medal is still coming up and take a medal, then it could be a different reason for it. But when it happens too often, then we know that the course
It
is
certainly
unfair.
seems that in the last 500 metres on lane 1, it's happening so often that the crews are just charging through the field.
Okay, especially the Dutch crews, they're going very fast in the last 500 because they had the whole public with them.
Of course.
So, all right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. And thanks very much for.
If you get something out of this, I'm very impressed.
I can tell you, also in future we will face such problems unless we have not a covered course.
I told them here from the beginning that all this money we invested in infrastructure, we used all that money to put a roof on it.
Yeah.
Then we don't need the course, you can sit out here on the roof.
You might know this. Would you actually need a roof, or could you create a vortex above a certain level by a series of cables going across that create a vortex above, and underneath it would be calm?
Well, yeah, I'm not expert in this area, but probably something can be
Better to
done.
put the roof on. We had one of these.
Leave our sport as an open air sport.
Klaus, we had was some of these oil countries down in the Middle East. They wanted to bid for Olympics, and I had a meeting with them. And it was no rowing course or anything, but it was a lot of sand out there. So the only opportunity, as you out in here, you dig up 2,500 meters and a couple of 100 meters wide. You put a roof on. We had a rowing course in the middle. And air conditioning, umpire is moving in the gondola up there, and the tribunes are following the races. Good idea. And then they said, we have trouble with the marathon. So you just make outside, you make a marathon course, so the people, then they will have approximately 5 kilometers, and they run the marathon outside the rowing course, and you have everything inside, you put the air conditioner on 25 degrees, and everybody is happy. Yeah? It's a good idea, we can make it. But I never got to Olympics. Yeah. But I mean here, one of the other
Who
things.
should we do that then?
Mhm.
What country?
I will not tell it so long as we have this on.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.